This is a brief tutorial on how to use SoftMax Pro that goes with the SpectraMax M5E plate reader. So the first thing you want to do is actually connect the machine to the software. So you can see here in this left-hand button that the machine is not currently connected, so we'll just click on this panel. Sometimes this automatically happens if you turn on the machine before you open the software, but if it's not connected, you'll just go to COM3 and hit OK. And now these buttons should no longer be grayed out and you'll see a green check mark here. So next you can select your settings for the run. So you can select the absorbance or fluorescence or whatever you're going to be doing. You can also do an endpoint or a kinetic read. I'll just do fluorescence and kinetic here. So you can set first your wavelength. So you can set multiple pairs of wavelengths if you're interested in that. But it's pretty simple in terms of entering your excitation and emission here. Next, you'll select your plate type. So this is important to select because it decides whether you're reading from the top or the bottom. And then you can also select different plate sizes. So typically it'll default to a 96 well, but you can also select 6, 12, 24, etc. Next, you can select what area you'd like it to read. So just know that when you only select a certain area, it's only going to read that area. So let's say I was interested in reading just this area here. This becomes important if you have a kinetic read in particular where you need to do very quick measurements between intervals. So you may only want to be reading a few wells at a time. But you would select those wells, and then it'll show up over here like a summary of everything that you've selected. So you can see here my read area, and it'll tell you what it is. You can also change the timing of your kinetic read here. So you would enter the total time and then the interval between reads that you'd like. There's also the option to shake your plate before a read or in between reads. Those are the main settings that I use within this particular panel. So because I selected that particular area to read, it's only showing me those wells. So we can go in this template editor here. So this was the settings that we went under just now. We can now go under the template editor and enter the name of our samples. So you don't have to do this. If you prefer the software not to save what is what, you can just run this blank. But if you're interested in setting particular groups of samples or standards versus unknowns, you can do that here. So under the standards tab, you can enter a name or you can leave it as whatever defaults, and then you can enter the concentration that the standard is, and then hit assign. You can do the same thing for unknowns. So you can enter the sample name here and also hit assign. The other feature is a blank. So you can set either a blank to a particular group or to the whole plate, and it will denote it as BL. And so when you do select plate blank, it's actually going to automatically clear all of your samples to that plate blank. So it's going to take whatever measurement comes out from the plate blank and make that 0 and then adjust all of the other values accordingly. So if you'd like to know what your actual plate blank value is, then I would not select blank there. I would just make it a sample and call it an unknown, call it blank, and then manually subtract it yourself. Okay, so once you've entered what you're interested in cataloging here, you are basically ready to read at this point. So you can just go up here to the read function and it will read whatever wavelengths you've selected. The other option you have, if you're not doing a multi-plate, if you're using a cuvette, you can go here to new cuvette set, and it brings up just a single well, basically just like the other thing, and you can set all of your settings the same way that you would with a plate. And then you can notice here that I added the cuvette set within this experiment tab, so it's all within the same SoftMax Pro file. You can embed things if you want. Just make sure that you select whichever one you want to read at the time that you're going to hit read. So if I'm interested in doing the cuvette, I need to have cuvette highlighted before I hit read. And then Alternatively, you just have separate files for the plate versus cuvette. However you want to organize it, SoftMax is fine with that. Okay, so then the other feature to tell you about is this protocol manager. So you would go under the protocol tab, go to protocol manager, protocol library, and this has a bunch of built-in protocols already for common assays that are used. So one in particular that I use a lot is under the protein quantification tab, BCA. So it'll bring up a new file when you do that, and it tells you about the assay, and then it also automatically selects your wavelength and other settings for you based on this assay. So the only thing that you would have to do is go in here and edit your template so you can enter your standards. So if I had, let's say, 1,000, 500, 250, and then I'm going to go ahead and set a plate blank here, and then you can enter your samples over here. Let's say sample 1 had a dilution factor of 50, I would assign that. Sample 2 had a dilution factor of 25, I can assign that. So once you've assigned those things, SoftMax will actually calculate your concentration for you. So you can scroll down in the file and see that it'll generate your standard curve once you run it. And then also it will create an adjusted concentration based on your dilution factor for your samples. So this can save you time with not having to manually do it. SoftMax will do it for you. The only caveat is to make sure you pay attention to the standard curve profile down here. So I believe it defaults to a linear fit, but to change that, you just have to click within this gray bar here, and it brings up the fit, and you can change it to 4-parameter or whatever you're interested in having it be. And then it will automatically adjust your samples and their concentrations based on that fit once you change it. And again, that was just under protocol, protocol manager, protocol library, and there's a bunch of different nucleic acids and so forth, things that can be used within this feature. The other thing to mention is that you can adjust the temperature on the plate reader. I believe I actually have never done it in SoftMax. I just do it manually on the machine, but you just have to hit the up and down arrow that says temp. And then adjust it, and it can usually, especially if you're going to 37, it takes about 5 minutes for it to get from room temperature to 37 degrees. I believe that covers everything.